Hello everyone, and welcome to another guide for the Contention server in DCS World, where this time we're going to be taking a look at the team resource system. Going to be looking at what these resources are, how you earn them, and how you spend them. So first off then, a quick overview of team resources. What these are is a shared pool of resources that is shared amongst your entire team. So blue have one pool, red have another. Everyone who is on that side has access to this pool of resources. You all share it. You can all do actions that contribute towards it, and you can all take away from those resources to spend it on various things to help your side win on the campaign. Now, the exact balance of resources is always being tweaked by the server devs just to keep things balanced and interesting, so the exact numbers that I talk about here may well end up out of date in a few months' time, but they will be correct as of time of making this video. In general, resources are there to make players think about their actions, so you can't simply spam down an infinite number of troops, you can't continuously reinforce an airbase, and they draw attention to some of the kind of secondary objectives of the campaign in helping teams gather resources. So you shouldn't spend these frivolously. On the other hand, there's no point just sitting on these. There is a cap of 500,000 resources per team, and beyond that you are just wasting resources. So it is worth using these. Just think about how you use them sensibly. Now, whenever you are using actions that require resources, you will be told your team's current resources in the top right corner, but if you're curious and want to check at any point, then you can do so by opening up your comms menu, going to F10, going to Contention Campaign, and then selecting Economy Status. That will give you a pop-up in the top right showing you how much resources you've coming in per tick, how many you're getting per hour, and your team's current total resource count. So then, how do we actually go about getting these resources? I'm going to break this down into two different categories because we've got passive resource income and active resource income. So let's start with the passive income. These are based on resource ticks. A tick occurs every 2 minutes during the campaign and just runs happily in the background. The amount of these resources you get depends on the number of CPs, the small capturable points that are randomly dotted around the map, and the number of factories, the other small units that you can reinforce that's covered in another video. An individual CP will give you 50 resources a tick, and that adds up to 1,500 resources per hour for every single one of those capture points. Each team starts with 30 CPs at the beginning of the campaign, which would give 45,000 resources per hour from these CPs, but you can absolutely take your opponents to start draining their resource income and adding it to your own instead. Factories are a bit of a bigger version of this, where each tick a factory gives you 500 resources. That is 10 times the amount an individual CP does, adding up to 15,000 resources per hour. And since both teams start with 10 factories, this gives both teams 150,000 starting resources per hour. But again, these can be disabled by destroying the factories or captured. All of that is covered in my factory video that's already out. So these two methods together give you a nice steady amount of background income that's steadily going to pour into your accounts, and does make capturing both CPs and factories very important, as these help your side's economy. Now, during making of this video, the 1.7 patch came out, and so I've got some new additions to put here for passive resource income. The airfield HQ buildings now produce passive income. At level 1, that is 100 per tick. Level 2, that's 200 per tick. Level 3 HQ buildings produce 300 per tick. Additionally, each team now has an industrial centre. For each building that is alive, they produce 500 per tick. That is 2,000 per tick for an intact industrial centre. The other change to passive income that has come up with this patch is that there is now these industrial centres. Not only do they produce their own ticks, but they also affect how much factory and CPs actually give you. So the numbers I've given you so far are if all of your industrial centres are intact, you receive 100% of the values. However, there are 4 bunkers in your industrial centre. For each one that is lost, you lose 25% of the tick from all factories and CPs. This is down all the way to a minimum of 10% resource production if all of these depots, bunkers are destroyed, meaning that attacking enemy industrial centres and defending your own is a really, really important part of the campaign. But then on top of that, we've also got active income sources. The first of these is depots. You can take out frontline depots. Every depot that you destroy will give your team 50,000 resources. On top of that, there are also rear depots on the map set further back, harder targets, but well worth targeting, as they will give you a one-off bonus of 200,000 resources when they are destroyed. There are also naval convoys in this, and here you get resources for either protecting them or attacking your enemy's ones. The naval convoys will make their way towards a friendly port, and if they reach that friendly port, your side gets 15,000 resources per ship that arrives. On the other hand, if you target enemy ships, you get 30,000 resources per ship destroyed, so it is well worth both defending your own and attacking your enemy's naval assets out there. And then finally, we've got the resource cargo delivery flights. These will intermittently spawn throughout the campaign, where a cargo plane will spawn and head towards a friendly airfield. If it manages to successfully land at that airfield, your team gets 100,000 resources. On the other hand, if you manage to shoot down an enemy cargo plane, then your team will get the 100,000 resources that was destined for them. Now, this is a huge amount of resources all in one go, so again, do keep an eye out on your EWR for those cargo plane spawns. Defend your friendly ones and absolutely hunt down and target the enemy ones. They are well worth it. These active incomes have also been affected by the 1.7 patch, notably the cargo flights. They now depend on how intact your command and control centres are. So the values I've given so far are for a completely intact command and control centre. If you lose one bunker, then the incoming flights are decreased from 6 to 4 and only carry 80,000 resources if they arrive intact. If 2 bunkers die, then each flight only carries 2 planes and will carry 40,000 resources. And importantly, if all of your CNC bunkers are destroyed, your team no longer gets cargo flights. Instead, every time one would have spawned, the enemy team are rewarded with the 100,000 resources they would have got for destroying a fully intact flight. So completely destroying the enemy flight is really, really good. That also applies with the lower levels. If you destroy one bunker, for example, your team automatically gets those 20,000 resources that you would have got for destroying those 2 planes. That gets awarded to you immediately. There's still 80,000 up for grabs, depending on if you can take down the enemy cargo planes or if they arrive safely. So then, what can you actually spend these resources on? Well, all of these systems will be covered by their own separate tutorials later on, but I'll give you an overview here in this one. The first we've already covered on this channel in a previous video, and that is CTLD vehicles. Whenever you unpack a CTLD vehicle crate, whether it's a single crate or a group of crates that have to be put together, your team will have to pay a one-off fee from your team's resource count. If your team doesn't have sufficient resources, you are simply not able to unpack those. You have to sit around and wait. Exactly how much it costs varies from vehicle to vehicle. The medium range and long range SAM sites cost 25,000 credits to unpack. Medium range, long range SAM repairs, on the other hand, cost half of that, 12,500. Ground vehicles cost 5,000 to 10,000 team resources per unpack, depending on how capable they are. And your shorter range or IR AAA SAMs, they cost 10,000 to 15,000 resources. There are also a whole load of other crates such as ammo supply vehicles, all of those cost 5,000. Additionally to this, you can also spend resources to upgrade HQs. These are the buildings in the centre of airfields that stop the enemy from being able to capture them, even if they've taken out all of your vehicles. These depend on the level. Building a level 1 HQ costs you 40,000. You can then upgrade that to a level 2 HQ for 80,000 resources, or upgrade that to a level 3 for 120,000 resources. This does make those level 3 HQs very, very appealing targets, as they do represent 240,000 resources worth of investment by the enemy, but they do really make it hard for things to take out the airfield with anything but very, very strong, powerful munitions. Equally, you can spend resources to reinforce airfield and FARP regular defences. This costs 75,000 for airfield reinforcements, 50,000 for FARP reinforcements. And then on top of that, airfields have SAM sites. You can repair your airfield's entire SAM site network for 100,000 resources. And then lastly, with all of those repairs, you have to wait for a carrier aircraft to make its way to the front line. Instead, you can initiate an airlift where instead you use the CTLD system to transport the crates yourself to reinforce an airfield. This costs 25,000 to start an airlift, paid up front, and then after that you can do the mission and get your team the repairs. All of these systems I will be covering in more detail in future videos, but to try and keep this one as short as possible, we'll just be leaving that there. Now, just like income, the 1.7 patch has affected a few ways to spend resources, notably in repairing those industrial centres and CNC centres that we mentioned before. So to repair a bunker on a CNC centre costs 250,000 resources and is a 3-hour repair, so is a very big investment to get back online. You can also send reinforcements to that CNC centre to repair its defences. That is just like the normal airfield reinforcement, however, because these are such a short flight time and unlikely to be intercepted, these reinforcements cost 150,000 to spawn. Very similarly, you can repair your industrial centre bunkers. These cost 125,000 resources per bunker to repair, and it takes 2 hours to repair one. So again, really big investment to get those back online, better to defend them in the first place. You can also send reinforcements to your industrial centre, and same kind of idea, because this is so likely to succeed, really short flight time. This costs 100,000 resources to call in reinforcements. And then finally, there is an option for repairing the heavy Patriot or SA-10 systems. These used to be permanent kills if they were taken offline. These are very advanced SAM systems, so very big targets. These are possible to repair now. Unfortunately, they do cost 250,000 resources to repair and must be delivered by a cargo plane flight, which can absolutely be intercepted. So these are still really big targets, really important to try and keep alive, but you can get them back online if they do go down early in a campaign. So that is the resource system in a nutshell. As I said, I'll be covering a lot more in future videos, but thank you for paying attention through this one. If you do have any questions, please do leave them down below. I am planning a huge number of other videos on this tutorial series, so they will be coming, don't worry. Apologies for background noise on this one. We had some magpies having a huge fight outside and currently have a cat making a lot of noise down next to me, but hopefully that'll be a little quieter for the next one. So until then, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.